Hi everyone, and welcome back to another coaching call for the DigiEduHack Hackathon hosts. Today we're going to talk about matchmaking participants and onboarding participants for your own hackathon event. We are going to cover why one would need matchmaking for their events, what kind of tools you can use when matchmaking participants into teams, what kind of timeline you could follow. Keep in mind here that you might be signing up as a host at different times, so your own preparation phase might be a bit varied. So keep that in mind when putting up your own timeline, of course. We're also going to go through the difference between organic matchmaking and manual matchmaking on your end. And then, of course, what things you should consider and other support from our end. So, what does matchmaking mean and why should we do it? Matchmaking basically here for us means any activities that you do to make individuals that have registered for your hackathon create teams so that no one needs to take part in the hackathon on their own, but everyone can be in a team. The matches can be made based on similar interests in the topic or similar interests in what kind of project and solutions they want to have to the challenge given. It can be either similar backgrounds and skills or then completely different, so very complementary backgrounds and skills. And of course, fits to the requirements of the challenge. So if you have a requirement that all teams have to have, let's say, a student and a technical professional, or a student and a professor, or whatever the case may be, or someone with business background, someone with technical background, then of course those are creating the base for creating a team. Reasons for matchmaking then. Again, if you have specific requirements that participants need to follow in order to be eligible to win your hackathon event, then they might need some help with filling that requirement and having all of those profiles needed in the same team. The other option here, as I mentioned, is if you have a lot of single registrants that still are looking to build or form teams together. You can also have a situation where you have a lot of small teams, so only teams of, let's say, 2 to 3 people, and you want to make them a bit bigger, then you might want to add some more individuals into those teams. Or if you want to add diversity to existing teams, again, to have those complementary skills and backgrounds, or you simply want to encourage meeting new people, so adding a few more people into the mix of teams. We advise you to encourage the team matches and support your participants in matching up and teaming up already before the event starts, because then when the event starts, the teams can effectively simply just work on their solutions. They don't need to spend too much time in the beginning of the hackathon to be matchmaked, but they're already familiar with their teams. But again, up to you how you wanna do that. You have a few matchmaking tools that you can use. Again, however you want to do it is the best way to go. But we want this to be as inclusive as possible for your participants and easy to kind of take part of this matchmaking support. And a way to do this is to do it online. A way here is to host a online but live matchmaking session or forum based on your tools that you prefer, let's say Zoom or Discord or whatever the case may be. And here you can have the single registrants introduce themselves, their backgrounds, what kind of projects are they hoping to work on in the hackathon, and so on. And then once all of the single registrants have introduced themselves, you can either open breakout rooms for potential matches that were made during these introductions, and they can keep chatting face to face, or then kind of have a bigger discussion in the main room here. As a host here, you can make note of the skills and interests during these introductions and propose team ups as well. So let's say that person A and B, in your opinion, would be a great match, but they're not really opening up in the session, because it is can be a bit intimidating, then you can also take that first step and propose for a team to be built there, for example. At the end of the session, you can make sure that you know everyone's status, how many teams were formed, how many are still looking for a team, or is there still someone, let's say, a complete team, but they're looking for more individuals, so that you know exactly who you should support afterwards and how. And then after this, you can follow up with messages, propose matches up until the event day, based on new requests or new registrations or whatever the case may be. For the text communication during the matchmaking, you can again easily use Discord, as you already have that as a tool available, but any other tool is fine as well if that's what you prefer to use. If you use Discord, we propose or suggest that you open up a matchmaking channel. Again, same thing as in the session online. People can introduce themselves, their skills, start chatting there in the threads, create teams. You can be there also trying to connect people, propose matches, and so on. How can you go about this then in terms of timeline? As I said, depending on when you register as a host, when you publish your challenge, and when your registrations start rolling in, your timeline might look a bit different. So don't be intimidated by this timeline if it doesn't suit your own timeline of joining as a host and starting your matchmaking activities. This is merely a suggestion. But a few weeks before the registration deadline, we suggest, if you have the time, to already have the first matchmaking session to introduce that team building and let the participants introduce themselves, create the first teams, and so on. Immediately after this matchmaking session, if the teams are not in your matchmaking channel yet, let's say that the workspace is Discord, add them there so that they can keep chatting, they can notice new participants that didn't join the matchmaking session, and so on. Another suggestion here would be to record this session and then add it as a recording on that workspace, just for anyone who sees it later but still wants to take part to see the introductions and maybe reach out to some individuals that way. And then, as said, you can also, in the same kind of as when you invite the teams to the matchmaking space, also create a form for participants to inform you of new teams that are based and formed, or then interest to be matchmade by you. So you can create a so-called matchmaking form where the teams can either fill in that they have now found a team, this is our team, these are our team members, so that you as an organizer know that these individuals are now taken care of, so to say. Or then the teams can fill in, or participants can fill in that, hey, I'm alone, these are my skills, these are my interests, I would love to be matchmade by you. So then you can start to fill your own kind of list of individuals and kind of propose new teams that way. Again, if you have the time and possibility, it's a good idea to host a follow-up video session or a few follow-up video sessions. Maybe you can have some workshops here around ideation. So let's say someone has now formed a team, but now they're unsure how to create their project idea. You can have different themes, but always leave space in these sessions for individuals to introduce themselves, form teams. Teams that are looking for new individuals can introduce their project idea and kind of speak up about what kind of expertise they're still missing in their team, and so on. A few days or up to a week before the hackathon, might be a good idea that you as a host matchmake individuals with existing teams or other individuals, so that hopefully by the hackathon day, all of the teams are complete, all of the individuals are in teams. So I would let this happen a bit more organically before, but then closer to the hackathon event, you simply matchmake teams from the individuals. Keep following up with the new teams to make sure they're working together all the way until the event starts. So up until the first day of the hackathon, when you actually get to see the teams, make sure that they are working together either online or on site, and they are still all aboard in the hackathon. So the difference between organic and manual matchmaking, I briefly mentioned this already, but with organic matchmaking, we talk about the situation where individuals form teams themselves. So let's say that this could either happen in one of those online sessions, people introduce themselves, start conversations, take up the chat online in that matchmaking space or somewhere else and form a team together. And at the end of this session or all of this, the process of individuals finding each other, forming a team, they inform you again, for example, by filling that form that I mentioned, of their new teams. So here you don't have a role in creating the teams, but again, it is a good idea to check in with the teams after you know that they are a complete team and the matchmaking is over to make sure that everything is still going fine, they are still working together and so on. When it comes to manual matchmaking, this is where you as a host step in. So this is where the host matchmakes people into teams. Again, you can use that form that I mentioned to have teams and individuals that need people into their team or need people to team up with to fill a form, giving you permission to help you matchmake them with others. Here you then go through the profiles and teams projects, connect suitable profiles and teams, and so on. It's a bit manual, but it's definitely a very good process and definitely something that the teams and individuals very much appreciate getting help with, because it's not always an easy task to create a team with someone you've never met before. You can either create a Discord channel to introduce the new team members with each other, letting them know that they are now a team, they can start getting familiar with one another and so on. If you want to do this over, let's say, email and start a new thread with the individuals, make sure that you ask their approval to share their email with other new team members in that form or other way of connecting or collecting the data and the info. And again, here, check in with the teams after a while before the hackathon starts to make sure that the matchmaked team is still teaming, so on. Something to keep in mind when you are doing the matchmaking is, again, first of all, keep checking in with the teams a bit after they're matchmaked, but a bit before the event, so that they're all still being active, they have all been able to connect with one another, no one has ghosted and ghosted someone else and so on. As I mentioned, do keep GDPR in mind. So if you want to share personal details, meaning, for example, emails, and start an email thread with a new team, do ask for consent. Think about the fairness here so that the teams that you create are somewhat on the same level, let's say. And then, of course, if you have a lot of profiles to match and you have a lot of people to choose from, think about the distribution of skill sets so that you have complementary skills in all of the teams. Again, if possible, if you only have a few people to matchmake and they form, you just have enough for one or two teams, then those are the teams. So you do with this as much as you can, and you'll see how much flexibility you have. The ideation support that you can offer to your participants, we try to support you to support them a bit. After the team is formed, they have to first get familiar with one another and then, of course, find a project idea to work on. If you have several teams that still are looking for ideas, they can't really come up with anything, you can either facilitate an ideation workshop for them, or otherwise try to support them. If you do an ideation workshop, we have a kind of workshop document here. If you press this link, you can also find it under the participant side of the DigiHack website. And you have several different kind of ways of ideation and different tools and exercises, let's say, that the teams can do to kind of crystallize their idea and so on. If you want to involve your mentors, you can into this process, or have the facilitators and teams join a session together. This is something that you can do either before the hackathon starts. Again, if you do it in advance and the teams know their project ideas when starting the hackathon, they might be a bit more productive in the actual hackathon when they don't need to have any time saved for brainstorming anymore on their project idea. But you can also do it in the opening of the event, in the first day of your hackathon. So up to you. That is that on the matchmaking. Might sound a bit like a puppet master exercise, but it's not too bad in reality. And if you need any help with this, just let us know. Once you have all of your participants, hopefully match-made into teams, but in teams or not, you still know who your participants are and you know who will take part of your hackathon. You can start onboarding them. That's the second agenda topic for us today. Basically, what you're going to start with from receiving your registrations to the website, to your challenge, is go through your registrations first of all. It might be that not everyone is very serious about the hackathon. Maybe you have, let's say, a lot of registrations, but you know that you're not capable of hosting all of them. You have a limitation of how many people you can have. You have requirements that not everyone meets. Whatever the case is, do go through your registrations and select who to invite to the event if you are doing a selection process. After this, invite your participants. Make sure that they know that they are approved. They know what happens next. What's the status here? You add them to Discord, you introduce them and invite them to an onboarding session maybe, so that they know, I am joining this hackathon. What should I do next? As you can see on the first two parts of this timeline, you have the matchmaking going on if needed. And then once you have all of your individuals clear, everyone invited, hopefully in teams, you can start onboarding. We propose having a onboarding session with the teams, just an hour or so, to introduce your participants to the schedule, cover the requirements, practicalities, where should they be and when, what is the format, what's the criteria, all of the things that should be clear in order for them to take part of the hackathon. We're going to show you an agenda example of that session as well. It includes some parts with the participants and the mentors, and then some parts only for the participants, but I'll show you in a slide. And then after the session is done, we recommend you to follow up with the teams by sending the recording, any other materials that you need, participant guide, making sure that the teams know how to contact you if they need help, so that they're all set for the actual hackathon event. All right, let's go through this a bit more in depth if there's something I missed in the first part of the hackathon, part of the previous slide. So as said, you will receive registrations all the way from when you publish your challenge all the way until the deadline. Keep checking them as you go so that you're a bit more familiar with them, and it's not overwhelming on the last day. And you can see if you either get a lot of participants, that you need to rethink your resources, how many can you actually accommodate, or then if you have too little, that you might have to do some more marketing and so on. So do keep track of those as you go. You can communicate with the participants and the registrants already before the deadline. It means that you can reach out to advice on that matchmaking thing, advice on team ups, invite them to any, let's say, pre-hackathon workshops or introductory webinars or whatever the case may be. So you can already kind of communicate with the teams. You'll see who is responsive, who is not, and so on. And of course, as I said, if you have a limited capability, shortlist the participants so that you know in the end who you will invite and who you will not invite. When you invite your participants, you can do that, as I think we mentioned in a previous coaching call, that you have my participants in your own personal area on the DigiEduHack website, and you can either confirm or reject a participants. You have created a confirmed or confirmation email that is being sent to all confirmed participants when you confirm them over the website, and the same goes for the rejected participants. As I said, when you reject a participant, it's really good that you have the reasoning there with you. So either it might be the capability and resources. You could only take X amount of individuals, but you received way more registrations. You have a requirement of the profile, whatever the case may be. As I said, invite your invited participants to an onboarding session before the hackathon starts. The purpose of the session here is to welcome the participants, get them ready for the event. They know exactly what's going to happen and so on. We advise here that you start this meeting with a so-called Meet the Mentors session. This means that you have all of your participants and all of your mentors online, and the teams can quickly introduce their ideas in a minute, 2 minutes, so on. High level, in a nutshell, we are Team X. This is our project idea. This is our plan for the hackathon. And then the mentors can give their very, very brief feedback in a few minutes. Sounds like a really good plan. Have you thought about this thing? Sounds like a really good plan. Have you done your research on this area? What kind of technology will you use? Whatever the case is, so that the teams can already start working a bit on their projects before the hackathon starts. After all of the teams have introduced their idea, the mentors have given them the feedback. The mentors are free to leave the session because they have already been briefed on the practicalities and so on. And then you and the participants go through the practical info. This means the schedule, what happens and when does it happen, what are the tools, either venue details, online tool if you're doing hybrid or online. How do you use the tools? How do you get to the venue? What are the house rules? Is there anything you need from the participants still in terms of catering, accommodation, all of these things. So whatever the case is that you need to inform the teams, do this in this session. As the teams have already met the mentors on the first part of the meeting, you can go through the mentoring practicalities a bit more in depth. They know the profiles, but how does it work? Are they assigned to a specific mentor for the hackathon? How do they reach out to the mentors? How do they book calls? Or will they all be on site in the same place? What's the evaluation? You can introduce the grid, go through the criteria, and so on. Again, a very brief example of that session is found here on this side. So first you have the Meet the Mentors, presentations of ideas, feedback from the mentors, and so on. And then you have the practicalities as well. Remember to leave some time for Q&A in the end from the teams and participants, because of course, it's a new event for them and they might have some questions. And then lastly, do follow up by sending out the materials, the recording to all participants. Send them the participant guide. You can find a template here behind this link. But make sure that it includes all important links that they need to any tools, any workspaces, if you are online or blended, a map or other guidelines on how to access the venue if you're on-site or blended, detailed schedule, what does it all mean, what are the different items, what should they bring, how should they prepare, what do you offer in terms of computers, accommodation, meals, whatever the case may be, clear contact details to your team or other troubleshooting contact, evaluation process, evaluation grid, and so on, prices, all of these things. And with that, we hope that you have all of your teams formed, all of your participants onboarded, and it's all crystal clear before the hackathon starts. And what's left for you to do is prep for your event. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out either over email or on Discord, and we will troubleshoot together with you. Thank you so much, and I will see you again in the next coaching call.